Feeling frustrated that your mixes keep turning out muddy, harsh, or overcooked? Well, there's a good chance that you might be ignoring one of the most essential EQ knobs. Let's dive right in and learn about this crucial EQ mistake that you might have been making for years. Hello everybody, Dylan Pines with Musician on a Mission here, and I've got another tutorial for you coming in hot. We are going to be talking about EQ today, and specifically we're going to be talking about the most essential EQ knob that you are probably skipping out on. I know that this is a setting that not only all of my students have completely foregone, but also I completely forewent for years before I started to actually figure out why it was so difficult to get my EQ right. But before we get started, I want to offer you a free little bonus. We're actually giving away my favorite tool that Musician on a Mission has ever created, the balance chart. So the balance chart is something to use with your EQs to totally revitalize the way that you do the entire process. When we EQ, we often use descriptive words to actually talk about the sound, like this sounds muddy, or dark, or thin, or bright. And this chart actually shows you where in the frequency spectrum each of those words live. So if you find that you have a muddy instrument, you're going to know where to cut it. And if you have a thin instrument, you're going to know where to boost it. Give it a download. It's on the link in the description below or on screen now. I really think you're going to love it. So enough of that. Without further ado, let's find out what we're talking about in this video. Drum roll, please. The EQ volume. Now, before you go to the comment section and start writing out your hate comment, just hear me out, okay? Hear me out, because this is something, like I said, that I didn't do for years. And I remember the week I started actually using my volume fader on my EQ, instantly, all of my EQ moves became better. It was the best thing I've ever done for my EQing. Literally of any of the things that I've learned to do. So now that I've gotten your attention, we need to talk about gain staging. So gain staging has a few different meanings in the mixing world, but right now, what we are going to be talking about in this video is basically making sure that the volume level that's coming into a plugin is the same volume level that's coming out of a plugin. And that's something that we all kind of intuitively know to do with compression, right? You know, using your makeup gain to bring back some of the gain that you've lost. You know, that's the same thing. That's gain staging. But this is a concept that we need to be applying to everything, especially our EQs. And why exactly is it that we need to do this? Well, if we don't gain stage our EQs, we are not hearing our EQ moves accurately. Because whenever we make any kind of EQ moves, we're either turning up sounds inside of a particular instrument or turning down sounds inside of an instrument. And that's going to affect how loud an instrument sounds. It's really important to know that just part of the human psychology is to like loud sounds and to dislike quiet sounds. We, for whatever reason, just intuitively think that louder sounds better and quieter sounds worse. So what happens if you do a bunch of cuts with an EQ and you're making your track quieter? Well, you're probably not going to like it and you're just going to get rid of it. But you might have actually been helping a ton with those cuts. And conversely, you might be adding a bunch of boosts on an EQ and you might think it sounds amazing, but really all you've done is added more volume. And those moves might sound terrible, but your ear is never going to tell you that. Your ear is just going to be like, ooh, it's louder. It's better. I like it. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. So I have a mix right here. Well, really, I have just a bunch of raw tracks that I did some volume balancing on. It's not actually mixed really at all. And I decided that I was going to go on here and put an EQ. You can see I made, especially for like a mix bus EQ, I made some really aggressive cuts. 6 decibels here, 6 decibels there, really wide, just chopping out a lot of the sound. And you're going to hear whenever we hit play that, you know, it really does make it sound worse. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted. I don't wanna join kind of just felt a loss of energy, right? Like you kind of went, eh. And that's not what we want to happen with EQ. But let me show you what would happen if I actually gain staged it. If I actually made sure that the volume and loudness coming in was the same as the loudness coming out. So I'm going to get up a little loudness meter right here. And this is just a LUFS meter, and we'll go over what this is in a little bit. You don't have to use this. You can also use a VU meter, or you can just use your regular peak meter if you want. But for me, using a loudness meter is my favorite thing to do just because it's modeled after the human ear. Let's really quickly turn this off and let's just kind of see where the bypassed version is living. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted, but I don't wanna join in. Okay, so about negative 17.5. So I'm gonna turn this on. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted, but I don't wanna join in. Okay, so that's sitting at about negative 21. So that's 4.5 dBs quieter that I've made it with this. So let me turn it up by 4.5 dBs. And you're gonna see that basically what I'm doing is whenever I turn this up, I'm boosting everything else around it whenever I've made these huge cuts. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted, but I don't wanna join in. So now that we've done that, now let's check out the before and after. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted, but I don't wanna join in. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted. I just wanna stay comfortable in my. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted. It's a huge improvement, right? It's the exact same loudness, and yet all of a sudden it feels like it's gotten brighter. It feels like it's gotten a little thicker. It feels like it's lost a lot of mud. It's a huge improvement to the sound. And had I just left it where it was and not gain staged it, I never would have known that. I would have just moved on, probably done some boosts, and, it would have sounded fine. But I would have never actually gotten a balanced sound with this. And that's a very important point to make, because if you don't gain stage your tracks, you're never going to have the confidence that you need to EQ aggressively. It's really not possible. I can't go in here and do a boost of 12 decibels and feel okay with that if I'm not gain staging. Because I probably know intuitively, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that because I'm just going to make it super loud and I'm just going to kind of change the tone a lot and it's going to be too aggressive, right? But if I was to do my gain staging and flip back and forth, I could actually hear what that was doing to the sound. For me, that was the biggest aha moment of this entire technique. I was able to start EQing aggressively, because I could actually hear what I was doing. I didn't have to make 2 or 3 dB moves at a time. I could make 6 or 7 or 8 decibel moves, and I could actually hear if they were helping, because sometimes they help. Sometimes they're really necessary. And without doing gain staging, that's just not a technique that you're ever really going to be able to do. Let me show you another example of what this sounds like. I've got my lead vocals right here. Let's say that I made these 2 boosts, right? A boost in the mids and a boost in the upper mids. This is guaranteed to make it sound a lot louder. Partially because they're just really loud boosts, but also because the human ear hears those frequencies as louder than all of the other frequencies in the spectrum. So let's check out what this sounds like. I don't want to get bitter and twisted, but I don't want to join in. I don't want to get bitter and twisted, but... So you can tell that it sounds, louder, a little bit more exciting with this EQ on. But let's go in and actually do our gain staging. So I'm going to grab my loudness meter, and we're going to check out where it's hitting before I turn the plugin on. I don't want to get bitter and twisted, but I don't want to join in. It's about negative 23. I don't want to get bitter and twisted, but I don't want to join in. That's about negative 20.5. So we added about 2.5 decibels. So we're going to need to subtract that amount to compensate. I don't want to get bitter and twisted, but I don't want to join in. Okay, that's pretty close. Let's do a before and after. I don't want to get bitter and twisted, but I don't want to join in.
I don't wanna get bitter and twisted, but I don't wanna join in. I don't wanna get bitter and twisted, I just wanna stay.
You can tell that after I've done my gain staging, it just sounds kind of whiny and kind of nasally, right? All of that excitement that you felt when you first heard it is gone, and you're just kind of like, it's not great. And had I not gain staged, I probably would have left that EQ on and moved on, because I would have been like, yes, it's hyped. I love the hype. You don't really want the hype if you haven't gain staged. If you're feeling the hype and you haven't gain staged yet, there's a good chance that you might be doing more damage than good. And on the flip side, if you're feeling bored by an EQ and you haven't gain staged yet, there's a good chance that you might actually be doing some good, provided that you're cutting in the right place. So that's about it. But before you leave, don't forget to get the free balance chart. It's a chart that shows you exactly where different words that you use to describe your EQ moves actually live in the frequency spectrum. It's a huge help. It's something that I even use to do my EQing. So to get your free copy, just click the link on screen or down in the description below, and we will send you an email for download. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We do tips and tutorials just like this one every single week. We'd really love to help you grow. And that's going to be it for me. This has been Dylan Pines with Musician on a Mission. And remember, create regardless.